Comes from Lorenzo Delano, and he asked, which of the 10 human needs as described in Communion with God do you think humans struggle most with right now?
Need. The very first myth, the very first illusion. The first illusion of humans is that need exists. And I think that's the one that we struggle with most, because if we thought that we needed nothing, if we thought that the illusion of need was in fact an illusion and that we really need nothing at all, which is true, by the way. You don't even need, people sometimes argue with me when I'm in public presentations. They say, well, we certainly need at least air to breathe. We need food at least. We need something, food, clothing, and shelter. Come on, Neale, give me a break. We have some needs, but I say to them, actually not. Even those are not needs. You only think you need those because you have a preference for living your life in this particular form. But supposing you didn't care, supposing you didn't have a preference for living your life in this particular form. There are those, by the way, who have made those decisions. That is, they've given up their life for another, as an example. Because when they were given a choice to either live their life in this particular form or love someone else enough to give their life for that other person, they've made the second choice. I call that the burning building moment. If anthropologists have proven, Vishen, that if the average person is walking down the street and they see a burning building, a building on fire off to the side, and they look, oh my gosh, that building's on fire, and they hear a little baby crying, and the mother is holding the baby out the second floor window, please help me save my baby, 98 out of 100 people will run into that building to save that child. They won't sit there and go, let's see, what are the odds here? Should I call 911? What should I do? No, they drop everything and they run into the building. It's called a burning building moment when we discover who we really are, because your natural impulse takes over your imagined illusory thought that you need anything, including even to continue your life. You're willing to give up your life for that baby, that they might have some moments to experience who they really are. So the biggest illusion, the biggest human myth is the idea that we need something. I've let go of my thought that I need anything, even my physical body. I'm okay if I continue living my life in a different form, at a different level, in a different dimension. I can come back whenever I want. It's called reincarnation. Life is eternal. Life goes on forever and ever. So guess what? Needlessness is godliness. Write that on your mirror at home in soap or lipstick. Needlessness is godliness.
Right. I'm smiling because what you're saying reminds me of a conversation I had with you way back in 2008 or 2009. I was at that point I was running a very, very, very tiny website. Mind Valley, wasn't what it was today. You gave me an interview, and I was so grateful. And I asked you, Neale, is there anything you need from me? Is there any way I can support you? And you said, I don't need anything.
I'm not surprised that I would say that, because that is my experience. And that doesn't mean that by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm not grateful. Right. For any help or any love that comes my way. That's not the same thing. I am very grateful for all the love, all the help, all the assistance that I might get from someone else who might spontaneously want to offer it as a demonstration and an expression of who they really are. But so it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful, but it does mean that I don't need in particular any singular thing. And to be in a needless relationship, just to move the conversation into relationship discussion, if you have a personal relationship with another, someone with whom you're sharing your life partner, the most blessed kind of relationship is a relationship where you need nothing from the other person. Then you can really love them for who they really are, not for what you think you're going to get from them, because you imagine you need it. I have that kind of a blessed relationship with my spouse, M. Claire, who doesn't need me for anything, I promise you. And I don't need her either. That sounds kind of cold when you hear it being said, but there's a warmth to it. There's a sense when I look at her across the kitchen, I say, you know what? I don't love you for anything you can give me. I love you as you're standing there all by yourself if you gave me nothing. That's real love, pure love, as defined, by the way, in Book 4. I asked God in Book 4, what is the definition of pure love? And God said, pure love is very simply defined. It's the kind of love that requires, requests, demands, expects, and asks for absolutely nothing in return.
Wow, I love that, Neale. Neale, I want to ask you a follow-up question. This isn't coming from the audience. This is coming from me, right? You spoke about the person walking in to save a baby from a burning building, and I remember that. That particular paragraph, I can't remember what book it was from, but it was so beautiful. Mind Valley turned it into a 3-minute animation. It's somewhere on the web, Neale Donald Walsch, Mind Valley, and I'm sure you'll find it. But why is it that human beings would do that for a burning baby in a building? But why is it that collectively we seem so selfish as a species? Why is it that there are people dying right now in Syria, like good, innocent people who are refugees, and countries like the United States are saying, no, we won't let you in, because one out of maybe 800,000 of you might be a terrorist? Why do we collectively be so unfair to other members of the human race?
Because of, well, first of all, the answer is obvious. It's fear. That is, people are afraid. And there are certain people in political arenas, not just in the United States, but around the world, who traffic in fear. That is, they use fear as their negotiating currency. If I can get you to be afraid for your own safety and afraid for your own security and afraid even for your own survival, if I can just get you to be afraid, and then convince you in my next sentence that I will protect you from the things you're afraid of, you'll give me all the power I could ever hope for and ever ask for. So the answer to your question is why people do that. And it's not just Americans, people all over the world. Why is the human species responding that way? Because of fear. Fear that is based in and foundationed in a total and complete misunderstanding of our true identity. That is, we're all living a case of mistaken identity. We have no idea who we really are. We imagine that we're separate from each other, separate at some deep level even from our own inner selves, and certainly separate from the thing that we call God, if we even believe in a God. So because we think we're all separate and alone out here, we have to try to gather together with as many people as we can pull together in our own tribe, and then hunker down and protect ourselves until the day that we finally die, whenever that is. And so the answer to your question is we act that way because we are afraid. And we are afraid because we don't know who we really are. But people who have learned who they are and have stepped into the living of it have lived rich and fulfilling and wonderful lives. Therefore, the answer is very simple. We need to awaken the species. We need to cause our lives to be a model and a demonstration to everyone whose life we touch, not of who they are, but of who we are. And that when they see who we are and they are clear that we see who we are, then they say, I want some of that. How can I get some of that? I'll have what she's having.
Beautiful. I love that answer.